Whenever Complex decides to reveal their best rapper alive for each and every single year, it always sparks a load of conversation in the community because people wonder what actually goes into this. And in today's episode, Lou and I are going to be analyzing every single selection, starting off with 2024, going all the way down to the inception of the genre in 1979, and we're going to be giving our takes on each and every single year. So guys, if this is your first time watching NFR Podcast, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell to keep up with our weekly uploads. Not only that, but let me know, how do you feel about the Complex lists? Because usually they get it right, but sometimes they get it horribly wrong. But
sometimes they get it wrong, bro. And I think the first thing to look at is like what actually goes into them making their selections, because you might be wondering, are they basing it off of who was the biggest rapper of the year? Are they basing it off of who dropped the album of the year? There's a bunch of different ways to tackle it, but if you read through the beginning of the article, they do explain it, right? So they say that it's not about who's the biggest or the most successful artist of that year. They say it means you're the best at one particular moment. And they also say that it's sort of like the MVP for a calendar year. And they describe it as a comprehensive look back at every year of rap and which MC moved the crowd the most. So, of course, they're looking at like musical output, but it seems like they're also really focusing on which artist made the most noise. And I feel like just off the bat, that's a bit flawed, because you might have a super underground artist that was rapping the best and maybe dropped 2 album of the year contenders that year, but didn't really move the crowd per se. So in my opinion, it should be about who is rapping the best and who had the best resume in terms of albums, singles, and all the output.
But I understand where they're coming from on the impact level and moving the crowd with the noise. I think it's a very important aspect in music, especially when you're pushing the genre forward and you're really taking those leaps and bounds. I think it is important, but like you said, when it really does come down to it, especially in sports, comes down to the chips and the awards and the accolades and who played the best and put up the best statistics. And I feel like in this case, you can't look at the stats. It's so hard. I mean, if we looked at only the stats every single year, I think Drake would be the rapper of the year.
Yeah, it'd be fucking boring. And you can get that information from like Billboard charts.
There we go.
What's the fun in that?
But I know, but that's never equal to the best musical output, you know? So I think for the most part, they've gotten it right. But like you said, Lou, it's a bit shady.
It's
but listen,
honestly, I don't know if they totally got it right. I think they got a lot wrong. And in terms of the way that they break it down, I don't know. But let's start off with 2024, where they picked Kendrick Lamar. And
this was an obvious one.
Yeah, I don't think they could have gone with anyone else. This is one of those years where I feel like, sure, you could, throw up a Future in the conversation and some other artists, but this was obvious, bro. Like, he had the best resume, right? Album of the year contender, won a rap battle against an amazing opponent, dropped a game-changing feature verse, had some of the most memorable live performances of the entire year. What the fuck more can you ask for? Also, this is something that's also important. Let me know if you agree with this. I look at also a rapper who wants the title of being the best rapper alive.
That's very true.
Because that's important, because it's sort of like you're planting a flag and you're getting your audience to rally around this narrative that you're the best, and then if you can go out and prove it, there's a lot of bonus points that come out of that.
Well, there's so many legendary MCs that have done that in the past, and it's always been an essential part of hip-hop, especially looking at the 90s, guys, because we're going to go through those 90s years. A lot of those rappers were claiming to be the best, or when they made that entrance from their very first studio album, the content matter was focused around being that top MC, and I feel like for Kendrick this year, that was at full display. Not only that, but looking at what he did with his singles this year, like Euphoria, 616, these are all Song of the Year contenders. Like the catalog, even going into the songs itself, some of the best writing that you'll hear all year. But like you said, I mean, the only other guy that I could really look at and be like, oh, well, you had a crazy year was Future and Metro. But besides that, I mean, is it still as dominant as this? I don't think so. I mean, Kendrick gets it on the influence. He gets it on the quality of the records. He gets it on the shock value. He gets it on the competition level. He gets it absolutely everywhere. So I think 2024 is a lock. Let's go to 2023. This one I feel like is a big mistake.
It is.
And they gave it to J. Cole. Listen, there's other years on this list where you can make the argument for Cole, but 2023 is definitely not one of them. I'll explain to you why. I feel like in 2023, Cole was not a bit more passive, but you don't necessarily have any material coming out of his camp besides a couple of different feature verses. And
he had a strong feature run in 2023. That's all you had, right? You had the Procrastination Lucy at the beginning of the year, which was fantastic in my opinion. Then you got smash hits that he was a part of, like a first-person shooter. Also looking at All My Life with Lil Durk. You also got features from him going into like different genres like K-pop and Afro beats, which was interesting. So he did the most as a feature artist. He was the best feature rapper of 2023.
Yeah, but there's so
the
many
biggest
different
problem is there was no album.
But even at that, looking at the features, I could argue that his feature run in 2022 was a lot stronger.
Bro,
You know?
Evil Ways, looking at The Secret Recipe, looking at first-person shooter.
I understand, I get it, but it's like, are you really going to crown someone to be the MVP for 4 to 5 features? The K-pop feature wasn't all that great. Wasn't anything too crazy. I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand, but it's not like a 2022 run or a 2018 run from him where he was spazzing out on everyone's tracks. Like, I feel like you got the secret recipe. Oh, you can't base it off of 3 features.
I'm not. But
I don't know.
I'm saying that.
Just for me.
I'm saying they chose the wrong rapper here. I'm just saying he had a great feature run
Travis's
in
year.
2023.
It was Travis or Danny Brown.
Travis or Danny Brown. I think you can give it to Travis Scott just because all eyes were on the Utopia album era, and he delivered a great blockbuster rap album. But I can't make the same mistake that I made in our video where we named the top 25 rappers in the game right now. Like, I have to give my justice and credit to Danny Brown with this. He was the MVP of 2023. You look at an album like Scaring the Hose, that was arguably the best rap album of 2023.
Quadanta was an album of the year contender.
Yeah, where he's like balancing introspection and experimentation. Like, he really went all out.
He was hitting
during that run.
different peaks artistically. A lot of people like to go back to Atrocity Exhibition and be like, that's his most manic, it's his most aggressive. Even going back to like Triple X, for example, people love the rawness of that project. But with Quadanta, you saw a different side of Danny, and it was a completely different artistic evolution from anything else that you saw in his catalog. And then you look at the collaboration album with Scaring the Hose. I think, listen, this either has to go to Danny Brown or Travis. Travis
So
probably.
who are you taking? Because Travis moved the crowd more. That's for sure.
Listen, Utopia was my album of the year. I think you can make the argument for both of them. When we had that conversation last year, well, it's maybe 2 years now at this point, I was kind of dead even on both of them. You can make the argument. It depends what you want to do.
Who's it going to be? I'm going Danny Brown here without a doubt.
I'll go Travis. I think I think it was Travis's year for 2023. Okay, let's go on to 2022, a year filled with a lot of fantastic music. A lot of different people did their thing here.
They got it wrong.
They got it wrong, though.
So bad. And it's, you know what? If you want to unfairly give a year to 21 Savage, like, they had a chance to do something funny and give him 2021, but they decided to give it to him in 2022, and I get it, right? It was him dropping his collab album with Drake with Her Loss and all of the features that he popped out on for the Heroes and Villains album. He definitely had a great year in terms of the output. But that being said, when we're looking at 2022 and how special that was for album releases, you could argue you got the best projects that hip-hop has had to offer in the 2020s decade in that year, right? You had Jay with The Forever Story, Denzel Curry with Mama I See Your Future. The list just goes on and on with quality releases that you got that year. So to hand this to 21 Savage,
no, they could have.
know, bro.
This is the thing, though, is there was a certain amount of artists that you could kind of throw a dart at. I kind of picture it like a dartboard. You could throw a dart at it, and like you land on Jid, it's valid. You land on Denzel Curry, it's valid. You land on Kendrick Lamar, it's valid. This was not valid. This was far from fucking valid.
Yeah.
You know, you can't tell me because, dude, he had 27% of the runtime on Her Loss. And he had a couple of features on Heroes and Villains. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
there's no way.
There's no fucking way. But that, okay, with that being
What's
said,
crazy, though, what's criminal here is that they didn't even mention Jid or Denzel as honorable mentions. Not even.
maybe Complex was in a different place with their writing.
Sheesh,
But
bro.
anyways, I don't give a fuck
They
about
were in
that.
a
Where
cocoon,
are you
apparently.
going with this one? Who would you give it
I'm
to?
going with Jid, without a doubt. I think that his album and even the hit records like Dance Now and Surround Sound definitely moved the crowd in terms of, you want to look at impact. That had an impact on the culture. And then him coming out with the best rap album, having the most complete rapping performance. I feel like Jid made, the longest lasting impression on me was his work in 2022.
That's
so
very true.
I go with Jid. You go with Denzel?
I'd go with Jid.
Okay.
I think I'd probably go with Jid. Like, that's going to be known for, like, the Forever Story year.
Yeah.
When you look back at it. But, all right, 2021, this one's even Steven, man. 2021, they give it to Tyler. Can't be mad at that one. That was my album of the year.
Can't be mad at it. I think it's a responsible choice. I mean, I think that when you look at it,
Who are you
obviously,
going to give it to? You're not going to give it to Kanye.
what was cool is that no, you're not gonna give it to Kanye. Like obviously you got like his most fundamentally hip hop project to date, some of his best ever rapping performances. But does that mean he's the best rapper of that year? I'm not too sure. I feel like we also have to look at J. Cole and we have to look at Little Sims, right? Like J. Cole had an incredible year as a rapper, dropping the offseason, dropping the best freestyle of that year, still dropping a couple of fire features. And I think that with Cole, it's like it was all about the lyrical exercise. That's what he made his year about. And even if he didn't have the album of the year, as a rapper, he was on another level altogether.
Okay, maybe just by a pure skill standpoint, yes, you probably go Cole with this situation, but to say that it was only a responsible choice for this one, I disagree with you. I think that Tyler was the right choice. You know, he had a top 3 album of the year, whichever way you want to look at it. It was my album of the year for 2021, and I'd probably go with Little Sims now at this point. But I mean,
so why Tyler over Sims then?
I think he hit a different peak artistically, bro, especially with the way that he took care of all of his own production, the way that he put together that rollout. Like you said, the noise factor to it as well. Like, Call Me If You Get Lost and Simbi are not far apart from each other. But that noise factor, that cultural impact, it's like he does it so well every single fucking time where, like, you get that excitement factor to it, but yet you go into the record and it feels conceptual. It feels like he's doing something new and refreshing. And I'm not saying that Sims didn't do that. I think that's a fucking perfect album. That's a masterpiece. And they could have gone with Sims, and I would have been like, that's perfect as well. I just think that this was a right choice.
I think Sims is a great choice too, just because she managed to cut through all the noise, right? Kanye and Drake had dropped their albums the same time as her, and she ended up having the highest quality album. And just because she's from the UK doesn't mean we can't give her fucking flowers. Ultimately, though, I went with J. Cole. In terms of the rapping, the rhyme schemes, the bar work, I feel like he was the best rapper alive in 2021. But let's go on to 2020. Lil Baby.
This one's interesting.
Listen, bro, there's no denying that Baby was poised to be one of hip-hop's leader in 2020. My Turn was the most streamed album from that year.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. I don't give a fuck. If we're being honest about it, bro, there's no way that we can give it...
Two contenders here for me. It had to go down to 2 people. It's either between Boldy James or between Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah, and this is a year where the underground of hip-hop really thrived, and Complex should have acknowledged that. Like, even the Grammys were nominating fucking Freddie Gibbs and Jay Electronica. Ultimately, I'm going with Boldy James. I think that...
Mangara McNichols?
Unparalleled consistency and output, bro. Mangara McNichols, The Price of Tea in China, the Griselda debut, the Versace tape, Real Bad Boldy.
Stupid year, man.
Cemented himself as an underground legend that year.
He was really on a different tear that year, and I think that what was cool, it was the first time a lot of people were kind of exposed to Boldy and his artistry, and it felt fresh, it felt unique. Now you can make the argument that maybe he needs to change it up a bit with the cadence and the flows, but 5 years ago when you were listening to him at the beginning of this decade, it felt completely different than what anyone was ever doing, and it's also hard to do what Boldy does. And I think that he opened a lane for a lot of different people to come through and deliver that type of like monotone rap and to have a place in the underground. I really enjoy his work, and for 2020, it probably should have been him or Freddie, because Freddie has the undeniable album of the year for that year.
I agree. But mind you, Mangara McNichols makes it deniable. That's an album that goes toe-to-toe with Alfredo.
But I will say this, though, Freddie Gibbs reached higher heights rapping performance-wise than Boldy did in that year.
That's fair,
the
but
rapping performances were
conceptually, Mangara McNichols is better. So again, it's
but
like, what do you value? And I just feel like, in terms of just that gritty realism and the lyrical precision, like Boldy James was so calculated throughout his verses. And yes, in terms of like delivery wise and as a performer that's going to keep you engaged, Freddie does more, but that's not all you can look at.
Yeah, but I think that you also have to look at records of the year and like what came out of their catalog song wise. I look at a 1985 or A God Is Perfect. Those are hard records to create for different rappers. So I don't know. It's tough. I think it's between Freddie or Boldy. Guys, let us know.
What are you choosing, though? I'm going Boldy.
I'm going to go Boldy for 2020. I think that's an undeniable year.
2019.
Oh, my God.
The Baby. Listen, bro. The Baby being considered the best rapper alive for a year, or let alone even a single day, is absolutely wild to me.
This is when Baby on Baby released.
Kirk also.
Kirk had released as well. Baby on Baby was 2019, right? I always get confused. Is it 2018 or like late 2018 into 2019?
What are you asking? Sorry.
The Baby's Baby on Baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's an early 2019 project, correct? If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And then you get Kirk. He decides to double drop that year. You get an iconic verse off of Under the Sun. I get it, but I feel like a lot of these picks have aged like milk. You know, I'm not sure if they're supposed to age well because like it's sort of an in the moment sort of thing going on. But with this one, I don't know, dude. There's so many different people you could choose. You want to go Freddie Gibbs with Bandana? You could do so. You want to talk about Tyler, even though it was not a rap-centric album, I probably wouldn't go there, actually, just because like it's a rapper's list. Or even Cole with what he did with Revenge of the Dreamers. That's maybe even a good year to look at for him.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I think with the Baby, like, sure, he was the breakout star of 2019. He took advantage of like a very silent year for the mainstream, but him dropping hits like Bop and Suge are not going to convince me, you know? Like, already within that year, you saw the over-reliance on the same flow. You saw the generic, you know, Jetson-made production that just was consistently the same. So, to me, like, I got exhausted of the Baby within his breakout year. So, that's why I can't go with him. Like you were mentioning, Freddie Gibbs is an amazing pick, but I had to go with Little Sims with this one. Dropped her breakthrough album, Gray Area, and showed us that she can fuck up any beat no matter what the style is. And you're getting a song like Selfish where you have the classic boom bap style. You're getting a fast rapping style on Venom. You're getting a punk rap style on Boss. Like, she proved that she was a force to be reckoned with, so I go Little Sims.
I think that's a great pick. I just feel like, especially for mainstream North American hip hop, Freddie Gibbs really did something different with Bandana.
Fair.
And to be able to look at an album like Piñata and not only try to deliver on that quality, but deliver an album that is close, if not on the same level. Like, they're low-key the same album to me in my eyes, and deliver records like a Palm Olive where, you know, you're getting fucking Anderson .Paak, and you're getting, you know, well, Anderson was on, you know, was on Giannis, and then you had Pusha T on Palm Olive, and you're getting these great cuts like Situations and Fake Names. I go back to that album and I'm in absolute awe. I really think what he did that year was absolutely special, and especially after delivering like he did with Madlib in 2014 with Piñata, it's a lock for me within 2019. I would have gone Tyler, but Tyler did something completely different outside of the genre, and rapping performance-wise, I think Freddie takes everyone that year. I think it's very hard to look at other rappers and be like, yeah, you're on the same level as Freddie for that
It's
year.
a toss-up between Sims and Freddie. I go Sims, Ant goes Freddie. Let us know. Next up, we have 2018,
Oh, they got
where
it
they
spot on here.
awarded Pusha T. Yeah, they got this one right, bro.
They got this one right. Well, this was like a 2024 situation.
It was.
What does it take? Does it take a rap beef? Does it take a Drake feud to get you the MVP?
Yeah, I mean, you end up getting Pusha T's best solo record today with Daytona. And, of course...
Well, top 10 album of the decade.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, yeah, obviously one of the best diss tracks ever with the story of Adidon. One that I think you could say opened up the floodgates for Kendrick to attack Drake in a similar manner. So it was a genius approach from a rap battling perspective. Apart from that, I mean, I just think that even looking at, let's say, his feature verses on Feel the Love off of Kid See Ghost or Brothers Keeper off of Oxnard, like, he even had the features to back him up.
It was a stupid year for Pusha T, and I think it really solidified his solo career as a whole. If you take Daytona or that year out of his solo career, it looks a lot different, you know. And that's a type of year that it's hard to replicate. You'll never get a year like that. Like, that's a 2024 Kendrick type of year where it's a different type of zone. Another rapper I guess you could shout out from that year is definitely Travis. Travis, you know, was monumental from the month of August on.
He was.
It was all Astro. That dominated the airways and was the biggest cultural moment, music and album-wise, for 2018. It's just, as a rapper, you obviously go Pusha. Album for album, Daytona or Astroworld, it's definitely a toss-up, but I'd probably go Daytona. And then you add the rap battle in there and what he did against Drake. No, it goes to Pusha.
Absolutely. But at one point, I feel like you were debating me saying Kanye West maybe had the best year.
It was. I think I don't look at it as a rapper thing.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know,
as an artist, as a hip hop artist,
just contributions overall.
I got
this
you.
is like best rapper list, right?
Yeah.
The person that really excelled with the pen game. Probably didn't write anything out of all those albums.
Yeah,
So,
facts.
I'm kind of okay.
We know what Kanye does and where he excels, so fuck it. Let him do his thing. Let him cook. But all right, 2017, Kendrick Lamar. I don't have much to say here. I think it's as well deserved as it could be. When you're looking at who dropped one of the better rap albums of the year, it is Kendrick with Damn. When you're looking at him again making the claim for wanting that seat on the throne, he did that with the Hard Part 4.
Well, he went toe to toe with More Life, bro. Like sales wise, they did they did a thing there.
Yeah.
I remember Complex actually posted a picture of Kendrick dunking on Drake, bro,
Yeah.
with Damn over More Life. That was like sort of a bit of foreshadowing there. Best concept record of that year, in my opinion. The other rapper I feel like that could be in contention is probably Jay-Z.
It is.
Delivering 444. Very vulnerable and a very conceptual album for him. You know, looking at a deep dive into his mental state and what he was feeling. All of the No ID executive production, and it's beautiful.
I just don't like that. Complex writes as like credentials, right? Like what it took for Kendrick to be awarded this. They wrote #1 album debut, first solo single at #1, 4 Grammys. Like that's all. I'm sorry, sure the accolades are cool, but that's not what we're looking at. That's not why Kendrick deserves the title, right? Like,
well, I think they have a fan base that appeals to those types of things, right?
I guess.
And it depends. Our community, I feel like, looks at it a bit differently. But anyways, let's keep going on with this. This one's really unjust, and I feel like, especially for me, looking back at 2016, which was a pivotal year for hip-hop, and was such an entertaining year, so many new acts and faces coming in, there's no fucking way Chance the Rapper should have won it in 2016.
No. And I love what he did as an independent artist. The movement was beautiful to witness, right? To get a mixtape Grammy nominated from an independent artist, like it had all the juicy headlines that you can expect. But that being said, when it comes to quality of music, when it comes to rapping ability, Coloring Book and Chance's efforts as a whole were not fucking up to par with the rest of what you got, because like you said, 2016 was a huge year. And I mean, listen, you got Schoolboy Q, who deserves a shout, dropping Blank Face LP. You also have J. Cole, who you could consider here for For Your Eyes Only. But that being said,
he dropped in December.
He dropped very late into the year. It's tough. You could give it to Cole. I'm not going to give it to Cole. I think I'm going to have maybe my hottest take of this episode. I give it to Young Thug for 2016. I think that when you look at the run that Young Thug had with projects like I'm Up, Jeffrey, Slime Season 3, this was peak Young Thug, bro. And he dropped all of these mixtapes before the end of the summer, and he really, he's the artist that I feel like has stuck with me in terms of rotation. He also had a huge moment with Pick Up the Phone. He had hit records. You couldn't ignore him. He was unavoidable that year. And I think that in terms of creativity, vocal range, this is one year where I'm focusing, I guess, a little bit less on the actual rapping ability, but I'm looking at the whole big picture.
That's a great pick.
And I feel like Thug fucking dominated this year, bro.
I feel like this was an obvious one for me too, because it came down to 3 guys. It was Drake, Cole, and I would say, especially looking at Kanye. Kanye had a sneaky year that year.
Even Uzi.
Uzi had a sneaky year as well. Dropped 2 arguable classic mixtapes for his fan base. You and I, Junk, Lil Uzi Vert versus the World and the Perfect Love Tape. Those were huge moments.
Also, Danny Brown with Atrocity Exhibition has to be mentioned.
But the person who made the most noise, the person who knocked in the door with an album of the year contender, some of the best records of the year and collaborations of the year came out of that Life of Pablo run. It was a whole movement. It was a cultural movement, and I feel like that was still Kanye's that was peak Kanye. That in 2018 was it was the Life
not peak. The College Trilogy is peak Kanye. Come on,
it's a top 5 album in his catalog.
Fair. I'm just saying, peak Kanye
album
is a big claim to make.
Bro, it's some of the best records out of his catalog lie within that album.
Fair.
Get one of the best intros ever from Kanye's catalog with Ultralight Beam. Get one of his best collaborations ever with No More Parties in LA. Father Stretch My Hands Part 1.
I know the quality on that album, but it's not peak
30
Kanye.
Hours. Come on, bro. What are we doing? The real
peak Kanye
friends,
has to be one era.
Saint
If you're looking at one era of peak Kanye,
I think that this was a
2016.
scary era for him.
You're going to tell me he peaked in 2016?
No, I'm just thinking that when I look at 2016 Kanye, it's one of his best ever years in my opinion.
That's fair.
And that's why I think he takes it. It was just dominant. And the reason why he takes it over at Drake, in my opinion, he had it since the beginning of the year. As soon as The Life of Pablo dropped, it was over. And that album was being streamed. It was being played. It was dropped a month after on DSPs, and it still did 99K. Imagine if that album would have dropped with a proper rollout, proper whatever, it would have still been on top for the rest of the year. But regardless, I
Let's
go with
keep
Kanye.
on going. Yeah, so Ant goes with Kanye. I go with Young Thug. Just dropped so many trap anthems, kept us eating all year. But 2015, this is the toughest year to decide for the 2010s, bro. I mean, I think it's between 3 different rappers, and you can make amazing arguments for each of them.
Kendrick, Future, Drake.
Exactly. It's between the 3 of those guys. So
And I understand why they chose Drake, though.
Oh, 100% I understand why. This is such a valid pick. And I think that, obviously, if we wanted to judge this list by, like, okay, who dropped the album of the year, you could do that. But dominating a year and being the MVP for a year, it goes a bit deeper than that.
This is the thing, though, is that he didn't drop any album.
He dropped one of the greatest rap albums, or actually one of the greatest albums of all time. So, you know what? It's tough.
It depends the way you look at it. Honestly, I don't have any winner or like dog in this fight. I don't. You could do Drake just because of the pure dominance. One of the best collaboration albums of the decade released from his name. If you're reading this too late, in my opinion, is a classic mixtape. Shook up the whole industry. Looking at the Drake versus Meek Mill beef, that set off a completely different shockwave in the entire hip hop community.
Think about the
it
power
was just
of
W's and W's and W's.
The power of features, right? Rico, Blessings, Where You At, like dropping a summer anthem like Hotline Bling in that year too. Like he was the face of hip hop in 2015. There's no denying that. If we were judging this solely on like who moved the crowd the most, it is Drake every single time.
This is where you were going hard with Drake's music, eh, Lou? This is where you were going crazy.
As a fan, yeah. Like that 2015, 2016 era, I was... Yeah.
That was... he was in different form back then.
He was in a scary form. But that being said, Kendrick dropped an album of a lifetime. He went fucking absolutely insane on the Tale of Two Cities remix. Dropped a fire freestyle on Big Boy. Like, he still has the resume. And listen, like I said, even though Drake dominated a little bit more, I feel like you cannot give it to Kendrick here, bro.
Dropped one of the best albums of all time.
That's it.
But
again, if someone wants to make the argument for Drake or Future, so valid. So incredibly valid.
Yeah, and you could also pick Future just because...
4 tapes?
And, you know, well, DS2's not a tape.
Whatever, 4 projects.
4 projects.
Yeah.
He dropped music that completely shifted the sound of hip hop forever. The influence, like, anyways, it goes down to those 3. But let's keep going on with this.
Yeah.
2014.
Nicki Minaj got their pick here. Back to another weak selection. Listen, did she have one of the biggest albums of the year? Yes. Did she have a huge hit record in Anaconda? Yes. But a lot of the music she put out that year just wasn't great.
No, it was gimmicky. It felt a bit forced. I mean, I don't know, bro. This one's a rough one, especially for 2014. I feel like a big shout here is Schoolboy Q, bro.
That's a W.
For 2014, coming out with Oxymoron and really like fucking breaking in the door that year, Q had the entire hip hop genre unlocked. Like everyone was looking at Q, especially that like he was gonna be that. I don't want to say sidekick next to Kendrick, but he made his own lane next to Kendrick within Top Dog Entertainment and carried that West Coast tradition. So I think you could look at Schoolboy Q and say, okay.
It's so tough because I feel like if you're taking it from the perspective of like when you were living in that year, who it felt like was the MVP or who was on top, there's that approach. But like there's also the hindsight perspective where it's like when I think of the year 2014 in hip hop, the first thing that comes to my mind is J. Cole sitting on that roof and dangling his fucking legs, bro. That's the first thing
but
that comes to my mind.
Album.
I know it's a December album. I'm just saying, I think even the fact that he titled it 2014 Forest Hills Drive always makes people associate J. Cole and that album to that year. So, yes, I won't give it to him because it came out in December. It was late to the game.
You know what? He's like that team that was kind of not sleeping the entire year, but was a bit more quiet throughout the year and then just makes a huge dark horse run and wins the chip at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't be mad at it.
But no, I'm going to ultimately give it to Freddie Gibbs, without a doubt, for what he did with Piñata. He even had the amazing Tim Westwood freestyle where he rapped over the 0 to 100 beat. Like, he killed it, bro, and he dropped the best rap album of that year. So it's Freddie Gibbs for me.
For me, it would be probably Schoolboy Q. I think that Freddie Gibbs did drop a better album, but I feel like that year was dominant for Q. where like everyone was looking at him. It created a new lane for Top Dog Entertainment. It was really a special year for Q. with
Really though,
Oxymore.
because like I feel like there's Freddie Gibbs before Pinata and after Pinata, and this just it made the noise. And
Again, I do agree. Like it's miles ahead of Oxymoron. I just think it comes down to like a kind of a situation with Drake and like the Kendrick conversation. I think the Pimp a Butterfly is miles ahead of anything Drake released in 2015, or it's even a bigger moment in the rap battle. It's just you can make an argument for Q because of what he did for the West Coast that year. Like he had records, bro. Like songs like Man of the Year. You know that. No, like I
so
don't.
did YG. Shout out to YG for 2014.
YG had a big year in 2014.
Yeah, but okay.
2013.
Here we go. This goes to Kendrick Lamar. And this was their reasoning, right? They said that Good Kid, Mad City had dropped late into 2012 and all the momentum carried over into 2013.
But it was an October release, though.
It was. You had all of, like 3 months? You had 3 months to sit with, like, it's almost a quarter of the year, right? Well, it is a quarter of the year. So I get where they're coming from. I think that the Control verse was insane, which oddly enough, in their explanation, they don't even mention the Control verse.
That would be the one thing that you look at from Kendrick within his output for 2013. And you're like, okay, you can make that argument. But this one, again, it comes down to a couple of different people. And
a lot of people. This is one of the most competitive years in hip-hop history.
It's such
right?
a stack.
Albums from Drake, Kanye, Eminem, J. Cole, Pusha T, Mac Miller, Tyler, Nipsey Hussle. Chance's Acid Rap dropped this year. Run the Jewels' debut album, Earl, A$AP Rocky,
This goes to Drake,
Gambino.
though. This is 2013 was Drake's year.
Yeah, I go with Drake.
2013 was Drake's year. Dropped the best album of the year. I'd give it to Nothing Was the Same.
Incredible timestamp record with 5 a.m.
Yeah. Peak of his powers.
Versace remix.
Peak.
Yeah.
Peak Drake.
I go Drake. Okay.
Keep going.
2012 goes to Drake.
Well, reverse it.
Yeah,
Give
literally.
it to K-Dot.
Literally. Good Kid, Mad City. What more is there to say?
That's it.
That's all there is to say there. One of the most cinematic.
And I never
rap
liked that
albums.
about award shows or even publications when they do these lists. They're like, oh, well, it dropped within a certain time frame. I understand if it's second week of December.
Yeah.
But if it's fucking October,
It's part of the year.
it's part of the year. Like, it was definitely dominant. So, I don't know. I think they made a bit of a mistake there. But 2012 definitely goes to Kendrick.
Shout out to Chief Keef. I feel like we're gonna have people in the comments saying that Chief Keef
Finally
was the
rich.
rapper of the year for him changing the course of hip hop with drill music and finally rich. So.
And he speaks about his 2012 era within his Zane Lowe interview on Apple Music. That's a great interview.
Yeah.
I fucking love that interview. Anyways, let's keep going on with this.
Okay.
2011, Drake. But this is where the logic doesn't necessarily make sense, right? You don't give it to Kendrick in 2012 because GKMC came out too late within that year. But in 2011, you're going to give it to Drake when Take Care came out even a bit later.
In
within
November.
that. So what's your logic with that? Why do you think they did it?
I have no idea. I mean, obviously, Drake did a lot in 2011. I feel like Drake's biggest accomplishment was being able to get two fucking goats like Kanye West and Jay-Z to make a collab album because they felt threatened by Drake. That is a fucking huge flex, bro. You're getting two goats to make an album because they're a little bit scared of who's going to be sitting on the throne because you're that much of a threat. Huge. That says all you need to know about
And he did
what made
take it.
Drake
And he did take that dominance. He
dropped
was
a generational album.
Yeah, he changed the course of hip hop forever with Take Care.
Yeah.
And the melodic sounds that came out of that album and the way that he was able to blend so many different genres. And obviously, we get it. You guys are going to put on your glasses. Well, Lauryn Hill did it before. I understand. Just don't fucking deny the influence
Yeah,
of this
when we're
album.
talking about modern R&B and just modern hip hop as a whole, that combination that is at display
Deadly.
is
Records like Headlines, records like Take Care.
countless.
Huge.
So yeah, it's Drake for 2011
Drake.
for sure.
All right, 2010, this is the easiest one. It's going to Kanye West. And
This
this
is
was
so
never
easy.
This was never going to be doubted.
Yeah, I mean the Good Fridays run,
MBTF.
Full Dark Twisted Fantasy, best comeback ever.
Yeah, that's easy.
And it was. You want to talk about creative peaks? This is one of them. I'm not gonna say it's his peak.
It's the one.
It's a creative peak for
Yeah.
sure for Kanye. But okay.
The JCPR 2009.
2009.
Oh my
There's
God.
There's no way someone can listen to the Blueprint 3 and say, "Yup, Jay-Z's the best rapper alive right now."
Nah, this one's tough.
man.
Eminem made a huge comeback this year in 2009 with Relapse. That's a great shout. I go with Kid Cudi though. I'm going with
That's a fair pick.
I'm going with Cudi. Was the introduction to Kid Cudi, released "Man of the Moon" in 2009. He just came in and he delivered what I think is one of the most revolutionary hip hop albums of all time. He changed the course. He was so powerful that Kendrick tried to lock him up in good music, bro, just for hooks. Looking at songs like "Pursuit of Happiness," looking at songs like "Day and Night," "Soundtrack to My Life." Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. There's no way. This goes to Kid Cudi or Eminem. Ultimately, I go Cudi, though.
I'm not going Kid Cudi or Eminem here. I have Mos Def, who dropped the Ecstatic, which was such an underrated album. When you're talking about the pinnacle of conscious hip hop, Mos Def came in with fresh song concepts. He came in with some of the best songs of that year with the Auditorium. You have History with Talib Kweli. You have Priority, just jaw-dropping verses, spiritually driven lyricism, beautiful production choices all throughout. You can't name me one song from '09 that compares to something like the Auditorium. I'm sorry. In my opinion, you can't. But Kid Cudi, super respectable. Also, big shout out to MF Doom, who dropped his last solo studio album with Born Like This. He could easily be considered the best rapper of '09 with just the technical ability that was displayed. But Kid Cudi's an amazing pick. I want to go Mos Def here, though. Let's keep on going. 2008, Lil Wayne, of course, bro. Came out with the Carter 3, game-changing album. He brought it all, bro. You want triumphant bangers? You got it. You want club hits? Get money? You got it. You want fucking amazing concept records like Dr. Carter?
You got
Fuck yeah.
You got everything you wanted out of that, right? And it was also like, I believe this was the year that he really started pushing Young Money as well, correct?
Yeah, it was around 08, 09.
It was
like,
around that
really
period.
09, I feel like, but 08 was the beginnings of it.
Yeah, like
sure.
he had also started to lay down the foundational blocks for Young Money around that time period. So I don't think you could look at Wayne and question this pick. Also, you want to talk about making noise in the statistics. One of the only hip hop albums of all time to do over 1 mil first week with the Carter 3.
Yeah, those are pop numbers. Like,
that's stupid.
Insane. All right.
Ridiculous stuff.
Obviously, Wayne was the right choice there. 2007, they gave it to Kanye West.
This is another huge W here. This is a great fucking pick. I think because Late Registration is arguably the best album of that year, right? We could both agree on that.
You're saying Graduation?
Graduation, excuse me. My bad.
Graduation or Below the Heavens. That's where I stand.
You had the Grad versus Curtis first week sales battle that went on. That was a huge headline.
It's a culture shift.
Yeah, it was a huge culture shift. He changed the game with this one, and it went to him. And you could argue that it's his best album in his catalog. I know you feel like that, Lou. Making anthem music and stadium music like Stronger, great synth pop records like something like Flashing Lights, bro. Those fucking all-time classics.
Absolutely. And
Can't Tell Me Nothing, club records if you want them. Great boom bap records with Everyday Struggle, like
with Everything I Am. Yeah.
Everything I Am, my bad.
But yeah, no, without a doubt, I agree with you. I think that Kanye obviously moved the crowd the most, but it shaped.
What were his features like in 2007, by the way?
I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, honestly, I think that he took full control of the wheel as a rapper, and it felt like he transported us to the future. I always say this, like, this is maybe his best aging album because it still sounds fresh all these years later. But shout out to Wayne, who released like over 100 songs in 07.
Everything.
Came out with the Drought 3 in 07.
Yeah.
Also, Blue dropped his masterpiece, Below the Heavens. Didn't even get a mention by Complex. Lupe Fiasco dropped The Cool. Didn't get a mention either. But I'm comfortable with Kanye getting it, even though you could have given it to Blue.
There you go.
could have. But all right. Let's keep on moving.
2006, they gave it to Wayne again.
They gave it to Wayne again.
Is this one a bit less obvious?
It is. I mean,
you could really look at what Lupe did with Food and Liquor back in 06 and give it to him.
That's who I would give it to, bro.
You have to you probably have to give it to him.
You know what? It actually made noise. Like, it sold pretty well. He was coming off high after the feature on Touch the Sky, which was just a year prior.
Clips had a great year with Hell Have No Fury as well.
Yeah.
But even some of the mainstream acts, like example, Kingdom Come from Jay-Z, not as great as Project. Then after that, you have Idlewild by Outkast. I don't know.
But Fish Scale by Ghostface Killah, amazing.
And More Fish as well dropped within that same year. You could make that argument.
T.I. had his King album, which was big. Nas with Hip Hop Is Dead was all right. But ultimately, it's Lupe.
Yeah, it is going to be Lupe. What did Jeezy do that year? Jeezy did The Inspiration, and then after that you had King by T.I. So even Atlanta had a big year that year.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's keep going on with this.
All
Let's
right,
go on to
05. This is where we have.
That's a crazy year, bro.
It is an amazing year. Jeezy, and obviously he became a star in 05, right? Dropped Thug Motivation 101, the Boys in the Hood album, and his brand of trap music was really building steam at this point.
But if that's
time.
the logic, do you look at the Massacre and look at 50?
You could.
I mean, I think Thug Motivation is probably a better album than the Massacre, but that's another hip hop album that sold over 1 million first week. So if that's the logic, I don't know.
I'm winning the game though.
You're gonna go with the game with the documentary?
I'm gonna go with the game. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna go with the game. What do you want, bro? This was the revival of the West Coast after years of not having an artist emerge out of that entire side of hip hop. You get the game coming in with the best producers in the fucking world behind the boards with Dre and Kanye West and Just Blaze, and you get top-notch rapping performances. You get hit records. He even got into a beef with G Unit that year and took everybody on a song like 300 Bars and Running. Like, he was hungry, bro. The level of hunger and domination from the game.
But do you look at the Carter 2 by Wayne and say that's a better album, and you get that same hunger on records like Best Rapper Alive, or look at something like Late Registration, which is probably the best album that dropped that year, or even something like Be by Common, the most conscious record.
That's another option.
Like
that I was looking
that's
at,
probably the best writing from the entire.
The thing
year.
about Wayne, it came out in December, bro. Out in December.
I don't know which month it dropped.
Yeah.
I think the game's a good shot. I'd probably give it to Kanye though with Late Reg.
You give it to Kanye? That's fair.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with the game though for this one. But all right, let's keep on moving. Next up,
2004. This one should have been obvious for them.
So this was T.I. This is awful of a selection. Don't get me wrong. Like, nothing respect for T.I. Obviously was changing the landscape of hip hop. But when you really look at it, like his album Urban Legend, nowhere near the level of Ye's album or MF Doom's album. Like,
this goes to
no
Doom,
way.
Though. This goes to MF Doom.
It's got to go to MF Doom, bro.
Mad Villainy
Dropping
and
two
Food.
classics in a year.
Food and Mad Villainy, no way.
But both. I wouldn't be mad at giving it to Kanye for the College Dropout. I mean,
revolutionary year. But yeah, I think you have to go either like, Urban Legend.
Can't go Tip. Like that album is not even that strong, bro.
You're going Urban Legend.
Like, come on.
Bro. I don't know.
Production wasn't that strong.
I
like,
don't know.
That like you have like Get Loose with Nelly. You're telling me like, I'm sorry, bro.
No.
I'm sorry.
All right,
it's got to be MF Doom.
Yeah, it's got to be MF Doom.
All right, 2003, 50 Cent. This makes sense. I mean, in terms of like having one of the best rookie years in hip hop history, 50 had it. But the question I'm going to ask you, which is the question that I was asking myself when I checked out the selection, was he a better rapper than Jay-Z in 2003? And the answer to me is no.
No, I don't think he was a better rapper, but I think it was his year. 2003 was his year. He took it.
Was he the best rapper alive in 2003? This was Jay-Z's farewell album. This was a huge moment.
I think, the Black Album and Get Rich or Die Trying for me are in the same field. It's the same playing field. I'd have them in similar positions for all-time great albums. So I don't want to look at that. I think, you could argue that Jay-Z was a bit more technical with it and that he was releasing better written records. But as a whole, bro, the dominance and what he did with Get Rich or Die Trying, it's... That's another year, bro. 2003 50, like that's another 2024 K-Dot year. It's a 2018 Push year. It's a 2010, Kanye year. That year belongs to 50 Cent. That's the way that I look at it.
If you're asking me who was the best rapper rapping alive in 03, I'm telling you it was the guy that made Lucifer and the guy that made Public Service
But you still had
Announcement.
fantastic rapping performances and great writing on songs like Patiently Waiting, songs like Wanksta, for example. Great song concepts like PIMP. In the Club was going off. Songs like Many Men.
Sure,
the
but
concepts like I'm sorry. No,
it's Jay-Z, bro. This is easily
That's
Jay-Z,
50's year
bro.
for 2003.
All
I think
day, bro.
And I think he would even agree with you.
No, I disagree with this one.
All right, 2002. This one's interesting.
They gave it to Eminem.
2002 for Eminem, the Eminem Show.
Yeah, no, this is the one. They made the right choice with it. It completed the three-peat. It was monumental that he was still able to fire off at that level
Also,
after those two first albums.
A lack of competition this year.
Nas had an amazing year, though.
Yeah, he had Godson and the Lost Tapes.
And the Lost Tapes.
But it's not comparing
a huge year.
Yeah, but the Eminem Show is still...
Riding high after the battle, that was a huge year for Nas.
Yeah, but it's still not going to compare to what Eminem did.
Two amazing projects from Nas.
Yeah, but they're nowhere near the Eminem Show.
I don't want to say they're nowhere near. Like Godson is a classic album.
Godson is not on the same level as the Eminem Show.
It's not.
There's the Eminem Show, then there's Godson.
I agree with Eminem, but don't say that there's a huge disparity between.
No, I just think it's another dominant year. Some of the best displays of lyricism, all the political messaging within his music as well.
It was special. It was
a special year for him. No way.
I go Eminem.
Yeah,
all right.
2001, Jay-Z. This is interesting. A year that he loses is the year that he wins, but you can't argue this, you know?
No, I'm sorry. You can't claim that someone is the best rapper of a year during a year where he literally went to bat to fight to be the best rapper alive that year and lost. You can't do it. I don't care if the blueprint's better than Stillmatic. I'm sorry. Nas beat you in a rap battle, bro, in that year.
I think you could look at it as two different ways, right? Because I know how you look at it. You're very competitive with it, and you like to look at it like from the sports standpoint, and I understand it, and you're right, you can't argue it, but it's the Blueprint, bro. That's a top 10 rap album of all time. Stillmatic is not on the level of the Blueprint.
It's not, but again, I think they literally fought. They fought for the title of who's the best rapper alive that year, and Nas won.
Which is why it's valid. It is valid. But at the same time, you still have Takeover within there. You still have the Blueprint. I don't know. I don't look at Jay-Z in 2001, and I don't really I don't blame them for it. I could understand where it's at. I think the best skilled rapper alive based off of the battle is definitely Nas, but the best output from a rapper that year was definitely Jay-Z.
The freestyles by Nas, like he had a fucking killer year, bro. It's got to be Nas. But next up, we got 2000. They gave it to Eminem. Listen, if you give this year to anyone else, you're either an Eminem hater or you're just uneducated, bro. Like it's all day Eminem.
Yeah, but there's some serious fucking albums here.
There is Supreme Clientele by
Water for
Ghostface Killah,
Chocolate by Common, Stankonia by
Prodigy's HNIC, so underrated.
Fantastic Volume 2 by Slum Village was another great project.
Deltron 3030, I think, came out in 2000.
Yes, sir.
Competitive year, but Eminem was the king.
No, he definitely took it this year. It was a completely different level of artistry.
Still can't believe he didn't win the Grammy for Album of the Year. That's fucking what a tragedy.
1999. Let's do this. They ended up giving it to Jay-Z, and I think this is the year where you have to probably give it to Eminem once again, bro. I'm going to be honest with you. Looking at what he did on 2001 and the contributions and the writing of that album, looking at what he did with the Slim Shady LP, that's a great fucking shout. You could look at MF Doom with Operations Doomsday. You could say that he was the best rapper alive at that point. Looking at The Roots and maybe even looking at Black Thought with Things Fall Apart. Mos Def with Black on Both Sides. There's no way you're giving this to Jay-Z. I'm sorry. This is where it's a lot less obvious.
Bro, how isn't Mos Def even mentioned as an honorable mention? Like Black on Both Sides is an all-time hip-hop album, and he's definitely rapping better on that album than Jay-Z was on Volume 3. Like Volume 3, I'm sorry, what do you have? So Ghetto? It's not even that strong of a project.
This goes to Eminem, though.
It's Eminem, though, ultimately. Yeah, I agree.
2001 writing in that, for sure.
There we go.
1998 is a crazy year.
They gave it to DMX, and they got it right, bro. In terms of, like, who was the most dominant, who came in with just the rawest of energies, another historic rookie year. Obviously, there's Lauryn Hill in 98.
With the Miseducation.
That's tough.
That's a tough year. It either has to go to DMX or Lauryn Hill, or you could even say Big Pun with Capital Punishment. That's a special album for that year.
I think DMX wins for the unrivaled energy, the emotions he evoked on the songs he was on, the genius concept tracks.
2 #1 albums.
Didn't leave any stones unturned that year. It has to be DMX.
It has to be DMX.
Okay.
97.
They gave it to Biggie, and understandable. I mean, it was the year that he unfortunately passed away. It was the year that we got his classic second solo album, Life After Death, and I agree with the pick. Even though, like they said, Biggie was only alive for 67 days in 97, he still managed to be the most dominant rapper of that year. But shout out to
Airways for sure.
Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes, those other rappers doing their thing that year. But I think Biggie's fair.
96 is going to be a tough year to look at, bro.
They gave it to Tupac, and this is one of the best years in hip hop history.
But you know what? It probably was Tupac.
It was Tupac. Yeah.
The whole battle. The West Coast, like him being the poster boy, like him, like he's the front runner.
After he got signed to Death Row, bro, the tear he went on.
Crazy. Even going back to the Defiant Ones, I started watching it again for just this period of time, and even the Don Illuminati's album that came out in '96. That's a ridiculous year. People argue Jay-Z with reasonable doubt. I guess that's cool. I guess you could probably put him in there, but
Nas, it was written.
No.
It's
No,
going to
no,
Tupac.
I definitely goes to Tupac. Overall dominance, it goes to Pac 95. This one's another interesting year. A lot of great output. You had Raekwon with Only Built for Cuban Links. You had GZA with Liquid Swords. Then after that, you could argue Prodigy from Mobb Deep with The Infamous. You had Tupac that dropped a classic album, in my eyes, with Me Against the World. It was another stacked year with wonderful writing.
I wouldn't give it to Biggie. I mean, obviously, I think that he took 94 by storm, and like by 95, people were like, okay, like Biggie is the guy who's on the throne, and a big part of that, had to play with the way that he was portraying himself, right? Like being this Don, and then we saw the influence of that on Nas in 96. Like he definitely shaped the way that rappers presented themselves and wanted to be seen. But in terms of just musical output, I'm going with Big L for 95 with Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. When you want to talk about a lyrical assassin, when you want to talk about a rapper that a prime Nas feared, that was fucking Big L, bro. When it comes to punchlines, Punchline King. When it comes to songs that move the crowd, you still had hit records on you, like Put It On or MVP, that had a huge audience. He accomplished so much with that album and deserves the credit, bro.
95 was definitely his year. I will say
You agree
this,
with Big
though.
L, yeah?
I will say this, though. I probably go Prodigy for the Infamous.
You could.
With the rapping off of the Infamous, I probably go with Prodigy for that year, for 95. But okay,
Even Raekwon, like so many guys.
There's so many.
So many for 95.
But that year belongs to New York for me. Same thing with 94, though.
It's
But this
between Nas and Biggie for this year. That's who it's between, and I'm going with who dropped the better album, and that was Nas' Illmatic, who also had more time to take effect because it dropped early in April. So
Even on a lyrical standpoint.
Yeah.
Better writer. Well, that's hard.
for that album,
For that album. Yeah. Even Scarface, though, what he did with the Diary that year. That's another great fucking album.
But yeah, no, with Illmatic,
No,
I mean, we started
that's
to,
for sure.
view lyricism as an art form that was prestigious, and then all the rap legends wanted to sharpen their pens, like people that were in the game before Nas. Like, it was just, what a culture shift with Illmatic. Next up, 1993, Snoop Dogg. This was his year, bro, without a doubt, right? Like, you had,
For
like,
sure.
The Chronic that dropped in late 92. Then you had Doggy Style in 93, and
That was officially the birth of G-Funk. Like, that's where it really
and
took
there
place.
was more of a
sure.
shift towards like melody and rhythm now because of what Snoop Dogg was doing. Like, he definitely had a huge role to play in all that. But
I could even argue Q-Tip with Midnight Marauders as well. That was a fantastic rapping performance all throughout that album.
every Wu member, because of 36 Chambers, like,
Well, you could argue Ghostface. I think probably
I'm still going Snoop though. For
Yeah.
93, I'm going Snoop.
just everything considered, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to start running through these years a bit faster for these years.
Yeah,
'cause-
especially for the 80s.
Yeah.
We're gonna run through a little bit faster because even the pool of rappers, the competition wasn't as big as the most recent years. But
so
all right,
for 1992, they ended up giving it to
Redman.
Redman.
I agree.
I think it's a great pick. You can't look at it and, you know what, the album, it's a classic, bro. It really
It
is.
is.
The only thing is that I look at Ice Cube's The Predator and I'm asking myself, yeah,
Even Business Never Personal by EPMD is another classic. Looking at Mecca and the Soul Brother by CL Smooth and P Rock, like, really stacked year. 92 was an underrated fucking year. But when I look at what Redman was doing, the aggression, the multi-syllabic rhyming, the split personality he introduced in that album, he was just so much fun to listen to. He was the most entertaining rapper from the projects that I listened to from that
he
year.
definitely was.
So Redman gets it. 91,
91.
they gave it to Q-Tip, and
Can't be mad at this one.
it's respectable, right? They dropped their groundbreaking
The
album
Low End Theory
in
dropped
this
that
year. But I'll say this. When you want to look at someone like Tretch from Naughty by Nature, if Tretch and Q-Tip in 1991 got into a rap battle, Tretch is out-rapping Q-Tip as
But
a
even
rapper.
at that, do you look at Ice Cube with Death Certificate and you
could.
start to question that? Because, well, No Vaseline came out in 1990 or 1991. Because I know it's on Death Certificate, but I'm not sure if it was released as a single
Not sure.
before. Anyways, someone's going to have to correct me in the comment sections. Regardless, though, I think for me, I would go Ice Cube for this year.
You go Ice
The
Cube?
Death Certificate is definitely second, at least in my opinion, to the Low End Theory. I love what Ice Cube was on. The writing is phenomenal. I think he's a better writer and he is a better rapper at core than Q-Tip is, at least in my opinion.
I'm going to go with Tretch from Naughty by Nature. I just think he had the perfect balance of heavy emotion with deep, complex lyricism. Songs like Yoke the Joker, like just so much enthusiasm on the mic from Tretch. So That's who I'm gonna go with for 91. But Q-Tip's a valid pick. I can't
No,
be
you
mad
can't.
at them
You
for
can't
that
be.
at all. But 1990, this is where they gave it to Ice Cube.
And what was the reasoning for this one?
Well, this was agreeable, right? This was right after the split with NWA. You get his grand debut album, with which you wanted Dre production, but instead you got the Bomb Squad. They killed it. Amazing narratives throughout it, rowdy delivery. But shout out to Chuck D and Rakim for 1990 as well. They had great years.
They did.
But yeah, agreeable. Next up, 1989. This is where you have Big Daddy Kane. Where this is the year that he dropped It's a Big Daddy thing. And
You love that album, man.
bro, fun fact for anyone that cares, when we first started recording, it was in my basement. That was a super temporary spot that we had before we were under the same like account on YouTube.
Yeah.
But we were recording podcasts and we had different posters of different albums.
And Lou really wanted to.
And I had a poster of It's a Big Daddy thing on our wall. And
But this is Big Daddy Kane's year, though.
it is Big Daddy Kane's year. Looking at songs like Smooth Operator, looking at Rap Summary, I just love the fast rapping technique that he brought onto that album.
Even looking at the storytelling aspect,
For
too,
sure.
like his game and like what he did to revolutionize that. So
Yeah, Big Daddy Kane is valid here, but shout out to Olive De La Soul. I don't know how they didn't even get a mention here
It's true,
for dropping 3 Feet High and Rising. Like, Cool G Rap had a great year, the DOC as well. Like, there's so many people that had a solid year in 89. But let's talk about 1988. They gave this one to Slick Rick.
for the Great Adventures.
The Adventures of Slick Rick. Yeah, broke so many boundaries for a UK rapper to cross over into the States. For him to introduce us to an alter ego with MC Ricky D. And not only that, but for him to go into these very nuanced storytelling tracks, unlike we've ever heard before, it was ahead of his time. But 1988 was the year for fucking groundbreaking albums, bro. Like, you had NWA with Straight Outta Compton. You had Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation. You had Strictly Business by EPMD. You had Rakim's Follow the Leader.
Yeah, that's a crazy album.
What a
as well.
year, bro.
There's a lot of fantastic music that came out of that year. And I want to say this: you could obviously look at someone like Chuck D and give him the position as like the best rapper for that year.
You could.
You could look at Slick Rick as well and give it to him. But again, this goes straight to Ice Cube, bro.
You're going Ice Cube here?
This is straight Ice Cube.
I'm going Slick Rick. I think they got this one on the money.
I don't know, bro. The contributions for Straight Outta Compton and the fact that he wrote that entire album.
Yeah,
And
he was the leader, for sure.
and he led that entire movement. What that did for gangster rap and how that created a whole different movement with Public Enemy for political hip hop. Nah, bro.
All right.
Yeah, that's going straight to Ice Cube for me.
1987, Rakim. Yeah, I mean, he changed the way that
Yeah.
people rapped after Paid in Full, right? The internal rhyme schemes, the multi-syllabic
Best
rhyme
album
scheme.
of the year for that year as well.
Would you have gotten an Illmatic if it wasn't for what Rakim did this year? Just drew a line in the sand. Really, there was hip-hop before and after 87 Rakim, but
86.
1986 for KRS-One, definitely understandable.
Shout out to Beastie Boys for License to Ill 3. License to Ill, excuse me. Then after that, you had Raising Hell by Run DMC for that year as well. Again, though, like, I'm not revisiting these projects like that. Even Curtis Blow with Kingdom Blow. Apparently that's a favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
I think
KRS-One
KRS-One is the right pick. In 1985, LL Cool J. Now we're really getting to the years where, like, there isn't much of a pool of artists to pick from. With LL Cool J, I mean, yeah, listen, he came out with Radio. Huge album, made a lot of noise.
But King of Rock as well with Run DMC, though.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think Cool J makes sense for this year when you think of 85.
But he brought it to the forefront for that year. It was the first ever marketable hip hop album.
It was.
Well, you could argue that or Run DMC. But okay, talking about 1984, getting towards the end of this list, you had Run DMC here.
Yeah, this is where you have Run from Run DMC, and yeah, he gets 1984 and 1983. He gets back-to-back years.
But those years were dominated by them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was, just because, you didn't have much other competition, right? You had Curtis Blow, and you had, like, Houdini, and you had a couple others, but...
You had Grandmaster Flash,
yeah,
the Sugar Hill Gang, but even at that...
Fair. I'm not going to argue it. 1982, Melly Mel. Yeah, I mean, listen, we know what the message did for hip-hop. We know that Ice Cube was heavily, heavily influenced by that track, and just the beginning, the roots of conscious hip-hop, bro. Like, that was such a pivotal moment. So, Melly Mel makes the most sense for 82.
That does make sense. Then after that, you look at 1981. That's gonna go to Cool Mo D. I believe. What did he release in that year?
I don't know.
Because I'm looking at 1981 in hip hop and like, bro, there's
Cool Mo
nothing.
D. Let's see.
What did
he put out?
give me some education, Lou?
I'm not like you Google search Cool Mo D 1981. You don't even have an album pop up.
Maybe it's something that like we're just not.
But yeah, listen, guys, like 81. Okay, he dropped Battle with Busy Bee, which is often viewed as the rap battle that changed rap forever. Yeah, so definitely was impactful for the battle rap culture. Okay, then
1980 you had Curtis Blow. You had self-titled Curtis Blow that came out that year, and then 1979, the inception of the genre.
I've tried listening to some Curtis Blow music. It's tough, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It's tough.
1979.
Grandmaster Caz, yeah.
I listen, honestly, bro, for the beginning of the 80s stuff, it's hard for you and I.
It is.
To kind of comment on that.
It is. It's almost 50 years old at this point. Like, forget, like, not living through those years, but
listening to those back
in terms of the
catalogs?
appeal, it's tough. Like, for me, my interest really peaks around, like, 1986 and on. Like, that's when I really have an appreciation for the music
later
released.
for you then. Mine's much later.
88. No, it's not. 88 for you.
88 would be mine. Yeah, like with
It's
straight out of
2
Compton.
year difference. Yeah.
I would say probably 88 is when I'm starting to really like listening to records in years. But guys, let us know, where did Complex get it right? Where did we get it wrong? Where did they get it wrong? Excuse me. And should we do a list like this? Actually, we've never done a list like this.
Should we do one for every single year, guys? Let
Yeah,
us
we've
know.
never really done a whole recap.
We haven't.
So yeah, guys, that's
you
gonna
kind of got
conclude-
our takes in this one, though.
There we go.
So.
But guys, that's going to conclude today's episode. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us the time of day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.